Thank you so much for turning into Beyond Should. I'm happy to have you here. I'm Lucy Reynolds, your host and the founder of the Murmuration Collective, where we empower women for lasting transformation in all facets of their life, both professionally and personally. And we get it. This is a dynamic and challenging time we're living through. And if you're feeling frustrated or out of control with your current work situation or life in general, and feel like something is just waiting for you just beyond your reach or clarity, then perhaps you might want to consider taking on a coaching engagement with us at the Murmuration Collective. We support women on the daily to wade through their confusion and find what they seek in the next chapters of their personal and professional lives. Our contact details are in the show notes. We look forward to meeting you and hearing what's going on for you. Now let's tune in together to this next episode of Beyond Should.
I found it unbelievably powerful to be among 57 people that had the same goal, that never at one point in the entire trip doubted that they were going to succeed.
Now I feel like if someone set me up for a challenge, I'm going to say yes, because I'm capable to do anything I set my mind to.
This race gave me the opportunity to spend a lot of time with this new mom version of me, and the vibrancy in me now, I can feel it.
This life doesn't have to look like one singular path. We are so capable of doing this in a wildly creative and different way. And I saw people doing it.
Hi, I'm Lucy Reynolds, and welcome to Beyond Should, a podcast for women reinventing their lives, their careers, and owning their power. This is a show where you'll gain insights on how to stop doing what you should do and finally start naming, claiming, and pursuing what you deeply want. Hi, everyone. Lucy Reynolds here, jumping in before we start this episode of Beyond Should. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm your host, and I'm also the founder of the Murmuration Collective. And I just wanted to let you know why we are dipping into our archives to bring you this episode this week. It's twofold. One, it's a brilliant episode with 4 amazing women. It's called Unexpected Surprises, Friendships and Sheer Determination at the Great World Race with Becs Gentry, Jenn Simpson, Chirine Njeim, and Hillary Kupish. You guys, these women ran 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. And it is a brilliant story around women supporting women, women who did not even know each other when they began this epic adventure, and the things that they were able to do when they put the power of all of them together is truly unbelievable, and I'm excited to bring it to you. The second reason I'm bringing this forward is I just wanted to actually just be a little vulnerable with you all. I'm going through a lot right now in my personal life, and I've had to say no to some things professionally. So my dad, for those of you who know me, is the apple of my eye. The fruit does not fall far from that tree. I am very much like my father, and he is not well right now. And I have decided to say, or I've had to choose to say no to many things that I definitely wanted to do so that I could say a resounding yes to my value to be with my parents when they need me in health crisis, or really whenever. And my dad and my mom and my brother and I all need each other right now. So we've had to say not yet to some of our podcast recordings. I have had to say, could I reschedule with you to some of the most brilliant women that I admire, who I don't even know yet? And they said yes. Some of you have had to step in and help with our work through the Murmuration Collective and with our corporate clients. Coaches have stepped in, clients have stepped in. Everybody is rising up to meet this moment for me. And so I just wanted to let you know that sometimes, or oftentimes in life, you have to say no to even things that you want to do so that you can say yes to the things that are meaningful. So as I'm part of this sandwich era of my life, I am bringing you new content when it's ready, which will be in a couple of weeks. So enjoy this episode of Beyond Should, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say about it. And I look forward to sharing this journey with you as I continue to create for all of you and bringing you content that helps you shed the shoulds of your life and in your work and lets you step fully into your full power. So enjoy the episode. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you on the other side of your shoulds and of this episode. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. I'm Lucy Reynolds, your host, and boy, do I have a show for you today. If you have an inkling of something big coming up in your life, a little nervous energy around, ooh, something really good could come of something really, really great if I just get into action, you are going to want to listen to this podcast because today I have 5 unique women who are going to share their story about doing the most incredible thing, which was participating in the Great World Race. 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. My guests today are Hillary Kupish, Becs Gentry, Ashley Paulson, Chirine Njeim, and Jenny Simpson. These women showed up for this amazing feat as total strangers with that pit in their stomach around, oh my gosh, what am I doing now? And they all showed up in Antarctica for the first race. And then something unique and wonderful happened as they proceeded on as a collective of 57 runners to Cape Town. Their bond started to form. After that race, they ran in Perth, then Istanbul, Cartagena, and finally Miami. These women blew up the leaderboard, amazingly so, crossing the finish line in 2 to 3 races as a collective of 5 women supporting women. I hope that you enjoy the stories that they're going to tell of their why, what's important about this race to them, what are they going to do in the future because of this race, and more importantly, what the bonds of friendship has given them, which was a beautiful, unexpected surprise around putting themselves in a unique situation. You never know who you're going to meet and who's going to buoy you up for the latter chapters of your life. So enjoy this podcast. I am so appreciative of these women. Let's hear what they have to say. Welcome, ladies, to Collective Wisdom. I am thrilled and fangirling over all of you. As you know, I was obsessed about the Great World Race in November, and the fact that you have said yes to be our first podcast in 2025 as we set goals for our own futures. We are going to be inspired by all of you. I'm going to let you each introduce yourselves now. Bex, could we start with you?
Absolutely. So I am Becs Gentry. I'm Tallulah's mom, first and foremost. I am thereafter a Peloton instructor here in New York City. Originally from England, I am a runner of any and all longer distances. Definitely will not find me on the track as I cannot stand being like Nemo the fish. Then other than that, I am an all-round adventure lover, travel person, and very honored to have 4 new good friends in my life amongst these fabulous women here who I was lucky enough to meet during the Great World Race.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Jenny, introduce yourself to us, please.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. I am an Olympic medalist and world champion in the 1500 meters. So I am the one of the runners here that has lived a long life on the track. And then I graduated to the marathon and spent 2024 running the marathon. And I had just retired or just announced that I'm retiring at the end of the year from professional racing, professional running. And that's when I got the invitation to do the Great World Race. So what a way to celebrate my retirement. I took off on a flight to South Africa just 7 days after that announcement. So very happy to be here and really, really excited to relive that experience and share my new friends with your audience.
All right, Chirine, talk to me.
Hi, so I'm Chirine. I am living in Chicago right now. I'm originally from Beirut, Lebanon, and used to be an alpine skier, and then I switched to marathoning when I met my husband. So I moved to Chicago, traded the mountains to skyscrapers. But since I just fell in love with the sports and went on this amazing challenge with this amazing friends that just been my inspiration. So yeah, excited to be here and share our story with everyone.
I love it. Thank you so much. And Murmuration Collective listeners, you all have heard Hillary Kupish before. She helped us launch our podcast. Gosh, that was in March of last year. Hell, can you even believe it? She's back here again because she is one of these 5 amazing women. And Hillary, could you please introduce yourself? Because you're actually not the same woman you were a year ago. Okay. Who are you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the titles all still stick. I'll keep it simple and start with that. Yeah, I'm Hillary Kupish. I'm a brand strategy consultant, ex-Nike, and I, most importantly, as Beck said, I'm a mom of 2, Ezra and Arlo, my 3-year-old and 6-year-old. I'm also nights, weekends, and whenever I can, a runner. And with that, was able to run the Great World Race alongside these amazing ladies, as well as Ashley, who hopefully will join us very shortly here. And yeah, I'm going to jump back to Chirine's intro because I don't think she mentioned, although she did both marathon and alpine ski, she did it in the Olympics. So let's just not like gloss over that important part.
Thank you for the shout out. I was like, okay, Eddie. And then I'm going to let the four of you introduce Ash. So each of you say one thing about Ash. She's not here because she is actually getting herself checked out about a running injury, but I'm sure she'll be back on her feet in no time. But could each of you introduce one thing about Ash so our listeners, if she pops in, can hear about her? This will be kind of fun. We should have done this way. Like each of you introduce the other. What do we have to say about Ash?
I'll go first. Of all the people I've ever met and all the coaches I've interacted with, she can talk and coach and encourage you louder and longer while she runs than anyone I've ever met ever. So if you need an encouraging person that can keep up, man, Ash is definitely your person.
I would say she has such a bubbly, positive personality, and just, I don't think you'll ever see Ashley not smiling or talking. So that's Ashley. If she walks in a room, if it's quiet, I think Ashley will bring just the energy into that room.
I'd say her bright pink hair is just a tiny snippet of her true personality. As has already been said, she is so vibrant, caring. She may be loud, she may be always smiling, but she is very nurturing. She's a mom. She's now a very recent grandmother as well. And if I had to be lost somewhere on a running race, she would definitely be somebody I would love to be lost with.
Yeah, all the things. I feel like sometimes, there's a question of are who they are online actually who they are? And 100% Ashley is who she is, whether it's in person, on social, etc. The one thing I will add that I have so much friggin' respect for Ash. She is gritty AF. The last 2.5 races, I mean, in the morning, she's walking with one leg straight, leaning on someone, proceeds to still run 2 marathons. That last marathon in Miami, she still ran a 3:30, and she did it smiling in agony, and the mental resilience and still cheering everybody else on. She is just an incredible testament to fortitude and human mindset and what positivity really does.
Consistency is, I think, how her husband describes her. And like, he was so fun to watch. And when she did, get, injured or, my husband, who's a former Nike guy as well, he and I were just like, what is happening? How on earth did she get across those last 2 finish lines? So amazing. Amazing. So Ash, we really hope that you make it. I look forward to meeting you, and our listeners do as well. Maybe we'll just have to have you on as your own special guest. Who knows? So my listeners know that I really do try to ground these sessions in helping our listeners. It's good work for me as well, for all of you, is to get really in tune with what's important in our lives right now, and that it helps us make values-based decisions around what we want to create next in our lives. And so I'd love to take you back, I don't know, 6 months or 5 months, or God knows, maybe a month before this great world race was starting. What was going on in each of your lives that you were thinking about? This is valuable. I must get to do this. And as you four don't know, and Ash doesn't know yet, but should is a dirty word in our coaching practice. We don't should around here. Like, should is somebody else's value. And what we really work on with our clients is what's resonating, vibrating in your body right now. So what happened to you all when you decided to say, hell yes, to this insane race? What were you honoring in yourself to do this? And if I could just hear from each of you, that would be awesome.
I'll kick it off. For me, I was honoring myself, which I think took me a while to, I'd say, openly admit. I think we live in a society where there's a lot of stigma attached to doing things for yourself. You can be called selfish, especially as a mom. And I had a dawning realization when the training started to kick up and it wasn't pleasurable to be doing all these miles, to be a Peloton instructor, to be a mom, to be a partner, to be a normal human, functioning human on top of it all. I had this realization of like, well, no, you're doing it for you. So you can stop it if you want to, but you don't want to. So let's keep going. And the minute I realized that I was doing it for me, I realized that my me is a we as well. And it's the same word, just flip it upside down. And the we is my daughter Tallulah and my partner Austin. And then all the other people who like spider diagram off of me in my life is my we. And in order to be great for them, I have to be great to me. And my me had dwindled over the past 2 years of being a mom. And again, that might sound awful to say, but I think a lot of new parents go through that. They suddenly realize like, whoa, shit, I've changed. Like there's a lot to process here. And you feel like you can't say anything negative about becoming a parent because there's so many reasons. Let's not even get into that right now. But there's a lot of be grateful for being a parent. But then in your mind, you're like, I am. My gosh, I'm so grateful. But also I'm freaking out.
And I'm fucking tired.
Yeah, I'm fucking tired. The me I knew for 36 years is gone. And she's a new version and she's fantastic. But I don't know her. And I need to get to know her. And I need to get to know her by myself and with other people. And so this race gave me the opportunity to spend a lot of time with this new mom version of me and see what she's like, see what she can do, see what friends she can meet. And that gave me a really cool lease on my training and, you know, the last 9 months of this year, to be quite honest. And by golly, and we'll get to it, but like the vibrancy in me now, I can feel it. And so I'm positive other people can feel that my, you know, if you want to get all hippie shit about it, like I'm vibrating at a much higher frequency and I love it.
Girl, you are talking to the vibration center here. Like we call ourselves Murmuration Collective because you are creating a murmuration in the world around the people that are even listening to you. I mean, the five of us can see you. You're vibrating. It is a higher frequency and a higher level. And so our listeners will hear that. But what will happen is those around you are going to see that you have new oxygen. You've reawakened or reclaimed who you are. But I love how you actually reframe that. And you said, who is this new version of myself? And now you're out there in the world. And I bet that you've had some really positive interactions with folks since coming back and they can feel a difference. And that is a huge impact because then you're going to have an impact on them. They're going to have an impact on their we. And all the we's of us are going to be at a higher level of connectivity and engagement because I truly believe when we women can be our fullest expressions of ourselves, that we can shift culture. And that's what this is all about for me. So I'm loving the rediscovery or the new introduction of you to yourself during this race. So thanks for sharing that. Who's next?
I can go next. So you know, I'm not, it is Chirine. Yeah, sorry. I'm not a mother, but I have a golden retriever, so it kind of counts. But she's a full-time, she takes a lot of my time. Sometimes instead of doing workouts, I'm going for walks with her. No, but for me, it was like once I saw that race and I decided to sign up for it, it was, you know, like Bex had mentioned, it was definitely, I wanted to prove for myself, which sounds, again, selfish, but at the same time, it's doing such a big challenge and showing others that, you know, I can do this. And I've always felt there is something that I need to do that is bigger than me. And that was something that really jumped at me. It was, people ask why you do such thing, why you put yourself into a situation. True, like sometimes if you kind of sit there and ask yourself that question over and over, you will have a lot of doubts. But instead, I was like, I'm doing this because I can, and I'm doing this for me and for myself. And at the same time, it's, you know, just the people that are, you know, kind of, we don't know of them, but they like follow us, they look up for us. And just seeing how many people were so inspired about what we did was just something that I can never, you know, let go of that. It will forever be stuck with me in everything I do. just believing in myself, believing in what I can do and how everybody else were like, I want to do this. I want to do this challenge. What did you think of it? So it's honestly, if you set your mind into anything, your body will just follow. And people were asking again, like, were you tired? What was it like? And it's just more set your mind into something and just go for it. And just surround yourself with the people that support you and love you, and then just block everything else. And that's exactly what I did. And sure, the training was not, sparkles and fun. And there's days I just didn't feel like going out. But I literally just did it and ran to work every day, ran back, and I pretty much was running everywhere. So I gave up on my car. I gave up driving, and it was easy to drive to run to the grocery store, run to places, and I had a backpack, and literally that's exactly how I got a lot of my mileage in. So
I love that. Thank you. I think that I'm going to redesign with each of you that we are not going to say, I know it was selfish, and people say, because I actually am on a mission to rebrand the word selfish, because it is around truly, if we can take this organism and like give it what it needs, there then goes back to the conversation with you, Bex, around the vibration. Like if this is fully functioning to its optimal prime way it's supposed to be operating, then it's going to have greater impact and ripple out in the world around us. So you can use the word selfish as long as you're like, yeah, I was so flippin' selfish and I crushed it. And then all these amazing things happen. So we can use selfish as long as it's not self-deprecating, because I ain't having it here. Okay.
I sometimes think about, sometimes they say if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. And I always think of that. Like I always used to say it, but it never meant anything. And now the more I think about it, if I'm not taking care of me, then no one else around me will be happy.
And it also goes to kind of self-worth. If if we valued it so much, we would take care of it, just like our golden retriever and our children. But we have to love ourselves just as much, if not more, in order to love them at their fullest. So I appreciate. So that's rule number 1 is you may use the word if it's used correctly. All right, Jenny or Hillary, who's up next?
Well, since we're talking about being selfish, I'll go because I live in that world. I'm very deeply planted in a system of being the center of the universe as an elite athlete and a high performer. And for years and years, really for the last, I've been an under contract professional athlete for the last 15 years. And I've learned about how selfishness is a requirement in order to get the best out of yourself. And oftentimes I think, the work, I have to own it all the way until I perform. And then when I perform, everybody gets the reward. And so it's a way to kind of justify or make that selfishness something that it's not a negative thing, because ultimately the end, you're going to share all of that hard work with everyone else. And like I said, the reward ends up being shared across the people that supported me and helped me, but then also all the fans in the stadium. So yeah, I like to think the bulk of it is mine. And then the tiny little piece that everyone gets to see and the shiny, sparkly part is what we all get to share together. So anyway, a little thing about selfish.
I thank you. No, I love that. When I get to win, everybody gets to win around me. Everybody gets the reward. That's awesome. So why did you decide, what was important about running this race as the first thing you did, retiring from your professional career? Talk to us about that.
So I had a really different approach coming into the Great World Race, because 6 months before the Great World Race, I was deciding that I would train for the New York City Marathon. And so I had a 12-week build and worked really hard to get to New York and race as best I could. And I knew partway through that build that this was going to be my last competitive race. So the 6 months before the Great World Race, I'm really in a position, in a space where I am kind of emotionally and mentally wrapping my mind around winding down a really long career and an incredibly rewarding career, and kind of making peace with that before I then go on not only to race New York City, but also to make that announcement to the world that I'm going to be done at the end. And so that is all its own journey in itself. But then I raced the New York City Marathon, and it was a beautiful day. It was a beautiful race full of really closure for me. And I felt enormous peace by the time that I got there and I ran that race. Was really proud of how the day really came together for me and for a lot of people around me. And then 6 days later, it was the first I ever heard of the Great World Race. So I got a call and finally connected with David Kelly, the race director, on Saturday and got on a plane to go to South Africa on Monday. So I knew about the race for about 36 hours before I got on a plane to go. So I didn't have the big buildup in the training for it. But, you were talking about what's resonating in your life at the time that makes this challenge really important. For me personally, I stepped away from New York City and my husband and I were flying home. And I told him what I'm most excited about is entering a season of yes. I've said no to so many things for so long in order to be this one thing for so many people. And stuff just as simple as saying yes to a glass of wine at dinner or yes to a later night with a friend or something. I've sacrificed and given up a lot of that for a bigger yes, which was my competitive career. But I specifically said to him, I'm looking forward to the next thing that comes around. I can say yes. And as the universe would have it, the next thing that came around the corner was 7 marathons on 7 continents. And we joked about after I got the call, I thought, I would never do this. I would never do this. But Jason reminded me of that. This is supposed to be a season of yes. And so I took it on. I had only completed 2 marathons before I left on this trip. And so I just took on this huge challenge. I didn't know who would be there or what it would be like, but just kind of trusted that if this is the season and I'm going to take something on, why not start with something big?
Oh my God, Jenny. First of all, you better be very careful when you look around corners because God freaking knows what's going to come at you. So I call that saying yes, your season of yes is trusting in yourself and having great expectancy for what's to come and knowing, you know what? I can handle whatever's coming, whether or not it's running 7 marathons, 7 days and 7 continents. And then what I also love and heard about your story is you had an accountability buddy in Jason. We all need those people that we actually refer to them in our coaching practice as our board of advisors, but people who are going to hold you accountable for what you want to create in your lives. We don't have to do all this by ourselves. And so I love that Jason was your accountability buddy in that and being like, wait, you said, so off you go to South Africa. So super cool. All right, Hillary, talk to us. What on earth? I didn't even know you were going to do it. And then all of a sudden I was like, what? Talk to me.
Yeah, I kept it on the deal. I remember Lucy texting me while I was gone. She's like, "What are you doing?" I really did. Yeah, I really didn't tell many people. I think I just didn't. Yeah, it wasn't for anybody else. But I signed up in August, so I had about a 3-month build, and I was actually training for New York as well. Not in the professional capacity like Jenny, but I'd already had a little bit of that. And when I first heard about it, it sounded a bit insane, intriguing, but not something I would do. And then it kept coming up, and I've shared this, but I was on a Peloton run. Bex starts talking about it, that she's doing it. I'm like, oh my gosh, obviously there's something to this. What I started going through right away, well, here, if I did that, I would have to be the why nots. I would have to be so disciplined financially. I would have to be so good about my sleep. I would have to make sure that I'm prioritizing work in a way and balancing running and training in this insane way. Talk about running to work. What are all the in-between moments that I'm going to be now running instead of doing anything else? And honestly, all the things that I was like, here's why I wouldn't, flipped into my why. I'm like, I get to be better about a budget. I get to be more disciplined with my nutrition. I get to become an expert sleeper. I get to be really good about owning my calendar, my workday, and setting work boundaries. And I also get to run 7 marathons in 7 days and 7 continents. And okay, all of a sudden, the things that we fear sometimes, can become the reason why. And so that was a really powerful reframe for me. And we joked about this a little bit. I love me a reframe. So anytime things came up on the trip, that was something I would be playing with a lot. But yeah, I think sometimes our fear can feel limiting, but we can also use our fear to empower and motivate ourselves.
I love that so much. In fact, because there's such really yummy resonance right here, I would love for each of you to share, and you've each sprinkled a teeny bit of this in, but if I were listening to this and I have sort of a big idea in my head of what I want 2025 and beyond to look like, but it's so freaking scary and full of fear, Hill, you were able to do a beautiful reframe. What I heard, your fears became your get tos, your want tos, not your shoulds. Oh, I should do that if I'm a running coach now, and I got to have this badge there. It's like, oh, and I got to work on my finances. Oh no, it's like, I get to. So I would love to go around really quickly or not quickly and hear, what are your pearls of wisdom as we talk about this being collective wisdom? What would you say to a listener who is on the precipice of what could be something amazing, but fear is holding them back? What advice do you have for our listeners?
I would say, I really did. I just took some notes on what everybody was saying. I always do that. Like, just love to remember, especially when I'm around people who inspire me naturally. And Hillary saying the reframing it of your why nots become your whys. And I think we all, as humans, we love comfort. We love to go to why not, because that's the most comfortable. It gets us out of doing that kind of scary, challenging thing in a justified way. And so I think if you are teetering on the edge of doing something that is potentially life-changing, and that doesn't have to be like, a huge grand thing. Life-changing it can be small, it can be whatever you make it to be. And I think figuring out the how it's going to change is imperative. And we know our whys. We've all talked about the whys. We've all talked about the why nots. And then the hows is like the top layer for me personally of like, how am I going to implement that? How is it going to reignite my sparkle? How am I going to bring that to my daughter? She's 2. She doesn't give a crap about what I did. Like, literally couldn't care less. There's no one else in the world who probably cares less than her because she doesn't understand it. So how am I going to keep these memories alive and document them and show her when she's old enough that mom did this crazy thing that she was really, really scared about doing and was part of a 57 strong group of badass runners who all had their different whys and hows, and were all really scared getting on their respective flights to South Africa. And the first time we all said hi to each other in person. And look how great the outcome was. Even if it sucked for one race or 7 races, we've all got those medals around our necks in the end. We all did it. And it was that jump, that leap of faith is so important of yourself. And I don't know, I think for me, it stems from, especially with my job, it's a lot of me telling people I believe in them, even if I don't know them. And, if anyone's taken a Peloton class, you've heard me say, I believe in you. And I do. But it's so easy to say that to other people. It's when you're by yourself in those horrible miles, when you're stuck in a toilet with the worst GI issues or the side of a road on a long run, that you say, hey, I know this is tough, but I believe in you. You can do this. And that's the jump. That's the do it moment.
I love that. It's the how. So implementing is what's going to unlock, right? We talked about this before we jumped on. It's like manifestation has to have a plan. You can dream, and then all you have to do, and it sounds so simple, but it actually can be that simple, is riff out a plan, with a accountability buddy. That's what we do at our Murmuration Collective immersive retreats is day 3, we're getting you into a plan around how are you going to execute this? It's all well and good. Everybody's all excited. And then we're like, okay, great. Now you're going to spend this amount of time in a collective environment. And all of you are going to yes and the person on what about this and what about that? And it then snowballs, right? And so I'm sure with your partners and your people in your lives, you were like, okay, how are we going to figure out the childcare? And who, I need to put together a GoFundMe and all these things. But once they were easily put together, right, it just rolled. Is that kind of what you're saying about the how, Becs?
Yeah. The hows become be better on a budget. For Jenny, the hows of training, how am I going to win that gold medal? How am I going to be the fastest woman over 1,500 meters?
Like, how did each of you pace in order to get there and to be across the finish line together? And then you freaking did it the very next day, I think was the next day. And then it started to sort of like, cadence out and all the stuff. I have no idea what all was going on with each of you. But I'm gonna throw this to Becs. Becs, tell me and our listeners, and you all jump in after she's finished. What was surprising about the bond between the five of you? Like, what was this thing? Is it just what I saw on social media and it was really crappy and y'all all just barely can show up here and see each other today because you hate each other? No, that's not it. So, what happened? Can you tell me the origin story of this connection?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all can probably speak from it from different personal perspectives, but I think the bigger picture is going to be very similar from each of us. We were all strangers in real life. I mean, I'm talking real here, real life strangers before we arrived in South Africa. We kind of had connected through social or had multiple friends in common, but had never once sat down across from a table from one another and talked and spent any time together. So in a funny way, knowing that I was going to meet these incredible powerhouse women at this race was one of the reasons I was really excited to get to South Africa. And the first morning that I was there, Chirine, Ash, and Jenny and I had actually decided to go for a little shakeout run. And we met outside the hotel and we happened to bump into Hillary, who had just finished her shakeout run. And like, we hadn't all exchanged numbers at that point. So we didn't even like know of each other. And so we kind of connected there, and Hillary went on her way, and then the rest of us went out for our shakeout run. And it was then like the briefing and after the briefing that sort of brought us all together. And for me, it was the nerves of being told we were leaving for Antarctica the next morning instead of in 48 hours sort of thing. All of a sudden, I felt like I had a green light to just text these women and be like, holy shit, like, are you packing? What are we doing? And this sort of mini freak out, real person situation was happening. And we were all in it together. Like we were all super honest from the get-go. And that's what drew me to each of them individually was, there were other women on the trip, but there's a reason why I think we all kind of drew to each other. We have a lot in common and we have a lot of differences. And that's kind of what makes a good friendship. And we're stuck together. South Africa was the real one, I think, that kind of cemented it. Ash was the first one when we all started running together and we sort of got into this crazy thought of Ash's train of thought, which was, wouldn't it be really cool if we ran the whole race together as women and finished together and showed the world that women can stick together and be friends and it's not competition. And we were talking to Jenny tons about that. Like, she's just exited the world of competitive running and she's like, holy crap, is this what real running's like? Like, you guys like each other? Like, okay. This is quite nice.
Yeah. And if I can jump in here, I think one of the things that was really resonated with me a lot. So years ago, I love asking people, what's your running origin story? Like, that's one of my favorite things to ask a runner because everybody's origin story or their introduction to running is unique to them. And years ago, this woman told me, well, I started running in middle school because it was the first time anyone had ever invited me to a team. And that stuck with me my whole life because sometimes it's that simple. We all have this desire to belong. And so when we were in South Africa, I think there was just an invitation out there between the five of us. And sometimes it's that simple. I think this connection or a vibe, sometimes you worry about what you have with another person and if it's reciprocal or not. And what it really is at its most simple boiling down is this person going to invite me into their life? And I felt like a little bit of a tag along because I decided to do this trip just so recently. And I jumped on a plane and got there and I thought, oh, all these people have these big plans and I'm kind of the last minute add-on. And so to receive an invitation from these women, that's all it took for me. And I think oftentimes that's really all it takes at the end of the day to get people on your team.
I love that. I hear openness. I hear invitation. I think that a lot of women don't want to come on retreat with us at first because they're like, oh, who am I going to be with? Right. And like, oh, that sounds really scary. And I love openness and being available to surprises. Right. What were you going to say, Chirine?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I do remember that first run that we did in the morning with, Jenny and Bex and Ash. And, for me, I was like, who am I? I'm just like showing up. You got Bex, you got Ashley, you got Jenny. Like, I'm truly surrounded by just amazing group of people. And so I was trying, on the run, we were chatting, we were talking. We're like, oh, this feels like a good pace. Maybe we should run this for the race. And at first I was like, no, they're just going to leave me. No one's running this pace. But, it was truly like, I just felt like we all connected so quickly and that everyone was just so open and honest about who they are and what they do. And there was none of this like, oh, I'm going to run this pace, but I'm not sure how I'm going to. No, it wasn't like that. It was whatever was said was the truth. And I felt honestly like, I don't want to say I am nobody, but I'm a runner in Chicago that I have my, fan club here. It's probably not as big as, Bex and Ashley and Jenny's, but so it was for me, like, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, I get to run with these women. I get to just be myself and then them just really opening up and welcoming me. Like, it was just amazing. And I still remember our first run in Cape Town when we first started. We all kind of started together and we're like, this feels good. And I'm like, I was sure that somebody's going to pick it up. But no, we just stayed with each other like every step of the way. And if somebody needed a drink or anything like that, we just slowed down and we waited for that person and just picked it up again. Or, as lots of us had like GI issues because, we're traveling, we're on an airplane. So we all understood what that meant and we all waited for each other. So that was just the power of that alone. You didn't really have to think. I mean, I remember even in Cape Town, like the last 2 miles of the race, I'm like, I am mentally like falling apart right here. And they kept telling me like, stick with it, just stay with us, just, listen to the conversation, just look around you, remember where you are, remember why you are doing this. And so having that power and that like just inspiration around me, it was just amazing. And I'll never forget that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to tag on something here because I had this really interesting direct message yesterday from someone randomly about performance and the race. And ended up being a comment about you must have such a great support system around you. And I was like, I have spent the last 3 years, thank you, Lucy, for being a part of this, of building what that support system looks like. And the other part of the comment was like, I just have a hard time like opening up myself up because I don't see other people reflecting my values. And it made me sad because I think one of my, my response was, and why I think it ties back to this conversation is like, we each came into this taking a huge risk for different reasons, but it was very unknown, very uncomfortable. And I remember like, you don't know, what people's agendas are, but I think everyone was willing to be vulnerable out the gate. And it was a little bit of like the first day of like high school or something. I remember walking up to, Jenny after the briefing, I'm like, do you want to get lunch? And I was like, sure, let's go find and get lunch. And everyone was willing to start sharing. I'm nervous about this. What are you doing for this? Like, let's troubleshoot together. I mean, and that was all within the briefing. I felt like that set the context for like, oh, okay. It's not like Chirine's over there being like, oh, I got this. Oh, this is what you should do. Or here's the thing. It's like everyone was just really open and vulnerable, which just enabled this really honest connection that then translated into the race. Because that's when we could be like, I'm hurting, or I need this, or should we do this? Or, and there were times where people like, I remember in the second race in Turkey where Chirine's like, I'm feeling good today. And I'm like, go girl, I'm not running 6:15s. You go. And then it still made for, and we all like, everyone did their own thing that day. And it felt really good too, though, because it was like this beautiful mix of honoring each other, knowing where we're at, and then also being able to honor our own decisions for what we needed for the moment. So I guess all to say, I don't think any of it would have happened without the willingness to be open and vulnerable out the gate. And even though in some of those conversations the first day.
There was actually a part where we all said to each other, listen, if you feel good, don't ever feel bad about just leaving us. Like, just do your thing, be yourself. And that was just always like, do not hold back, like just be yourself. And I think that just gave us, it was just nice to just be like, you know what, I feel good today. I'm just going to get going. And everyone's like just supportive and just go for it, you know? So that was really neat.
Well, I think that is women supporting women, right? And that it wasn't about, status or, she's going to get ahead or whatever. What I truly hear and what you all are talking about is being the vulnerability and the openness allowed for an authentic connection. Like there was no bullshit and no one trying to, posture ahead of the other person. So, Chirine, you actually bring up my next question was like, how did you all, and it sounded like it, again, it happened authentically, know when to actually pull away from the group and do what you needed to do to take care of self. You guys know I love the word to be a little selfish or self-centered in this moment. You felt really great that day. How did you said, I feel great, and you got the green light and boom, you were off. Like, how did it feel to accordion in and out of this structure of support and championing, as well as this solo act of running? What was it like to use the group in a beautiful way?
So I think for me, it was the give and take, meaning like, so in the first, Antarctica where we were just kind of spread out a little bit. And I was like, okay, different conditions. We never run on snow. We're all like double layered. So ignore that one. And so when we were in Cape Town, I felt, the last 2 miles, if I didn't have the group with me, I probably would have slowed down. Maybe I would have walked. I don't know what I would have done, but there's no way I would have finished with a group. So when it came to races like Australia, for example, I felt great. And I was like, you know what? I will be in the front. I will lead. I will be right there. And so I did exactly that because I was feeling great. But then in Istanbul, I was, I remember starting the race and I told the group, I said, I am mentally not here today. And what I meant by that, I just had no desire to run that day. It was cold. It was rainy. I was tired. And the course itself wasn't, it wasn't my favorite.
It was terrible. It was terrible. I'll say it for you. It was not a course that any normal runner would look at and say, oh, I should run here at any time during the day. And we were doing it at night.
In the rain.
Yes, in the rain. So, but the group never let go. And they just, they said, just stick with us as long as you can. And to me, that was comforting. It was, it helped me like get to whatever point I needed to get, even to the halfway, and then just keep going with them. And then once I saw that they really were feeling good, I said, just go. Today's your moment. Today is your day. Just go and feel good about it. And so it was okay to do that because it was a lot of give and take. So it wasn't just a one way, it was a two way. And so we did that for each other. And so I think it was okay to let other people take the lead, or, if people were behind, just stick with them.
Or as you did in South Africa, step into the lead. Like sometimes the group needs you to take up that space. Jenny, what about you? Because you're a solo runner. What was this like for you?
I think one of the benefits of doing something so extreme, and let's be clear, like whatever ambition you have in life, doing 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days is extreme, to the most extreme. But one of the benefits of doing something with a group this extreme is that you're going to see the highs and lows, and you're going to show just the raw emotion of the highs and the lows. And so in a way, that bonding can happen at a really condensed way and accelerated rate, because there's just no denying there's moments where you need help, you need support, and you're really low. And so to Chirine's point, that exact same day in Istanbul when we were running, I couldn't see very well in the evening at night. And so I really felt like the pace was fine, but I couldn't see. And it was raining and I was worried about slipping. And I really felt like I needed like physical space around me to be able to kind of navigate the conditions. So several times I said, well, I'm going to try to stick with everyone. And then ultimately, after a few laps, I said, I need to do my own thing separately and drop back because I'm just physically uncomfortable in this space. And we're exhausted. Like we're exhausted too. So there are moments like that you get to be your true self because there's just no other option. You've been pushed to the limit. And so, yeah, there are just opportunities like that. And then later when you feel great, everyone is genuinely happy for you because they hope that's around the corner for themselves, And so I do think it was a special experience to have that kind of extreme week with one another. And one of the reasons why I think so quickly we feel so bonded forever.
I love that. I love that. Asking for what you need and taking it, right? And then stepping into that. Hillary, what do you have to add to that? Any thoughts?
Oh, I think that was beautifully said. I think it comes down to mutual respect and dropping our egos. I mean, anybody could have won any of the races, and I think we all would have felt good about it. It never came down to like, this thing was so nuts anyway, and so out of like what all of us had, done previously. None of us had done anything like it. That I think there was just a beauty of like, we respect one another. If you have it, go for it. If you need something, take it. And it's a really beautiful example of also just like how I've seen each of these individuals live their life and why they are so freaking good at what they do in their different disciplines. And that's also been a joy to watch and perceive. I mean, I got to see Bex last week live in one of her classes, and I'm like, holy shit. I know I knew you, and I know I've done your Peloton classes before, but this is like next level. And so just have so much admiration, respect for seeing people work within their craft. I think that having that level of respect because you see how people manage their needs, their wants, and how they work with other people was just a really incredible experience. And so you got to see some high performers shine together in a really unique format that you otherwise wouldn't.
It's funny because running is so huge to each of us. Obviously, we wouldn't have done this race if it wasn't. It's quite differently huge to each of us and very similar. And even some of my closest female friends, it seems we're just in a room full of wonderful women here, they've, known me for over 2 decades, would have no idea how to handle me, pull me through, calm me down in a running situation. And yet these 4 strangers could for 7 days straight, when essentially we got more and more raw with ourselves and with other people. Like, it was such a absurd situation to be in of not caring. We couldn't have been more true humans, like bare naked, vulnerable humans in those 7 days. And the way in which none of us were scared of that or unable to help another person, and not just within this group, within the whole 57 runners, to be fair, we all mucked in. And I really it still shocks me when people kind of bring up the bonds that was specifically we have or created of like, yeah, no, it is something special, because I definitely couldn't call on any of my best girlfriends in the middle of a run and guarantee that they would be able to help me in that moment. But now I have at least 4 numbers that I could call in the middle of a run if I was by myself and just be like, yeah, shit, help me. What do I do?
That is really, really cool. And it's like, if you put yourself into the space of something that you're dreaming about, you're going to attract other people that have that similar mindset. And so this is one thing I want other listeners to think about as well. It's like, don't be afraid, because you'll find your tribe in this new space. You don't know them yet, but you have great expectancy for, yes, it could actually open you up to 5 new amazing people, which is so, so special. Now, I told Hillary, I was like, your question, Hill, is going to be, I want to know what happened on that flippin' plane. I got to know. But before we leave, I would love to know, what's the impact that this race has had on you? Is it just business as usual, or nothing? I'm good. And what's the impact?
Ugh. It's so difficult to say, because as a running coach in the non-professional field, before Jenny says anything, I really dislike the what's next attitude when people have finished a race for the normal person, because I feel like that just gets a lot of pressure. For a professional, hell yeah, what's next? Keep climbing, and that's your job. But for the normal person, I think it's really important in a hobby to always love it and to revel in what you've achieved, not just the race, but the training. And so this, for me right now, it's like a massive high that I'm slowly coming down from, but simultaneously, I'm realizing what I did, because during the high, I didn't have time to process what I did. it was business as usual. We kind of finished the race. As soon as I crossed the finish line, my 2-year-old daughter's there. She's priority. I'm mom immediately. She, as I said, she doesn't give a crap. She didn't want to nap that day, so I couldn't nap. Who cares that I had 2 hours sleep in 4 days? And it was just this roller coaster of normal mom life, coming back to New York, teaching at Peloton again. And to use your phrase, like no one gave a crap. I walked back into the Peloton studio and a few people were like, hey, yeah, well done. Like, oh yeah, oh, you're back. Well, yeah, even a few people were like, you're back. You've been gone. Where have you been? I was like, really? Wow. Okay, sure. It doesn't matter to you. And okay, it doesn't really matter to me because, And so I think now, like, what's next for me is just taking a bit of time to understand what I put my body through, what I put my mind through, the glory, because I'm going to take it. It is glory for every single one of us who completed it. It's a glorious thing that we did. And I feel like I've got my confidence back. So I think Hillary and I were talking about the power of saying yes this past week and just doing things that your brain, I think Hillary was like, I asked her if she wanted to do a photo shoot and her brain was like, hell no. And then this side of her, this like yes side of her was like, why not? Yeah. And I think this kind of race has given me the confidence back to be an individual who says yes. And I know that might sound silly because people think Peloton instructors are like these weird unicorns who just have this glorious life and we say yes to everything. But I'm such an introvert when I'm off camera and I need to be a bit more extroverted in my personal life. And I feel like I can do that. And this may sound cheesy, but maybe that's because I can now relate to these 4 other women if I need a bit of advice or I need a bit of reassurance in what I could do. I've just got 4 new friends who I can ask their opinions of and who I value highly. And I think maybe that was what was missing for me. So moving forward, I think it's definitely like just keeping that little awesome bubble of confidence and love in my life and not letting it fizzle out again.
Don't forget, you were saying that you said yes to this because you wanted to get to know the you of 2024. And maybe the you of 2024 is now, if I think about it like a volume, you're now, you've allowed yourself or you're ready now to turn the volume up a little bit more. And I'm super excited. I'm here for it. I can't wait to watch. And your new best friends in the running world are super excited for that as well. So thank you for sharing that part. I'd love to know what the impact was on you, Jenny. What's next? How has this informed your what's next?
Yeah, it had a huge impact on me, especially because it was such a spontaneous challenge for me. And so I stepped in. It was funny because I eventually started telling myself that having no plan was kind of a superpower for me because I didn't have a plan initially. And so when the plan changed, what did I care? and that happened a lot in this experience. And that's coming from a place and a personality in which I am very much a planner. I am very much a planner. I think people that are goal oriented are often that way. You start from where you want to be and you work backwards. I didn't know at any point that I was going to be in South Africa starting this adventure. And so there was no planning process. And so to take on a challenge like this and to be that spontaneous was impact number 1 is like, I can survive this. I can survive just launching into something that I've never done before. And I can also survive all the eyes on me while I'm doing that. So because normally when the eyes are on me, it's me executing at the highest level, something that I've been really prepared for. So that was one impact. Of course, the impact of making all these relationships and friendships. And to zoom out a little bit from this small group of us that we're talking to today, I found it unbelievably powerful to be among 57 people that had the same goal that never at one point in the entire trip doubted that they were going to succeed. Every single person. I never heard somebody worried or doubt or think maybe I won't make it to the next day. And I've been in really high performing groups before. I don't know that I've ever had that kind of collective ambition and certainty. I guess that's what I should say. I've had collective ambition before, but never like that kind of collective certainty that everybody knew They were going to make it to the end come hell or high water. And they all knew I was going to make it, which was amazing because I was like secretly kind of like, I don't know, because I haven't had time to think, can I even run 7 marathons at all? I've never trained for something like this or done something like this. So to have that kind of collective certainty was just something for me to really think about moving into the future. Like, how can I recreate that? And how can I also facilitate that in the projects I take on? And then the last thing is my husband and I are launching a new project next year called Run USA, where we launch the second week of January. Us and our 2 dogs and 1 Winnebago, we're going to visit and run all 50 states in a little bit of like a retirement celebration and also a bit of community building for us. Right now, we're planning and scheduling that we're going to partner with all like kind of local areas just to immerse ourselves in the nooks and crannies of what running looks like all across America. So we're really excited about the project, but this 777 challenge had an enormous impact on that trip in a way that I didn't expect. And just very quickly, among many other things, number one, it taught me I have to be a little bit thoughtful about my pace. If I'm, because 7 marathons in 7 days was an extreme reminder that I can only take on so much and achieve so much in a week when I'm in a state for a week. So it was a really good way for me to then enter this planning process thoughtful about that. And still, the flip side of that same coin is that you can do more than you think you can. And I'm taking that into this project as well. And so as I'm planning, as we're being strategic about how we're going to make an impact and how we're going to community build across the country and experience running across the country, we're saying yes to more things than I think we would have, because saying yes to the 777 Great World Race was just so incredibly rewarding and life-changing. So anyway, I threw a lot at you, but obviously something this wild, extreme has a really big impact on you as an individual and also what you know the collective is capable of.
I love that. So you guys check out our show notes, and I'm sure that people will be able to tap into where you are and when you are out in the 50 states. And I hope I get to see you here in Montana. Chirine, talk to me. What's the impact of this race on you?
For me, it was the same, like everyone, when I finished the race, they're like, what's next, And I just hated that what's next. I'm like, I just want to enjoy what happened. I want to be present. I just want to really take it in. And, someone sent me a message and said to me, no one can ever take away from you what you just did. Like, it is just incredible. I mean, to be able to say that we ran 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days is, even now I repeat it to myself. I'm still like, wow, I can't believe I did this. But it is true, because going through it, like, I didn't know. And people kept asking, like, do you think you're going to finish? Like, what's your plan? I said, I don't know. I trained for it and we just going to see how it's going to go. I believe in myself and I'm just going to ride the wave and see where this will take me. And honestly, before I started this, I was also competing, like doing marathons and things like that. But I was losing that motivation of just racing. And that's why I wanted to do something different, something that would challenge me. And I've always knew that this is something that was in me, something I've always wanted to do that. So going and doing the 7 marathons, I was actually talking to Hillary a couple of days ago, and I'm like, I kind of have the itch to like do a fast marathon, which is crazy, but I don't know. It's kind of something like right there, I'm just still thinking about it, just letting it sink a little bit. Again, like what this race had taught me was I'm capable to do anything I set my mind to. And that's something like so big, because I've done a lot of races before. I've done things that I was also still like, wow, I can't believe I did this, or I can't believe I accomplished this. But I never really truly believed in myself. But now I feel like if someone set me up for a challenge, I'm going to say yes, because I'm capable, I can do it. And the interesting thing is also like at work now, when someone throws a lot of things at me, I used to get stressed out. But now I'm like, listen, I've done 7 marathons. I can actually do this. And my day's been packed with like meetings and running in the morning and getting up and walking the dogs and spending time with my husband. But I feel like I'm able to do that because I've done something that was just so incredible and so big that this is just go with it, just go with it and it will happen.
I think all of you are in a state, because it's only 4 weeks out, we refer to, pausing to gain clarity before you respond. I feel like you're percolating on some big ideas, but you're in this pause phase of like really getting sharper focused. And that's what we, really like to coach around versus reacting. Hillary, what's the impact on this been on you?
Oh my gosh, where to start with that? I feel like my answer changes a little bit on the daily, but one of the greatest gifts of this experience for me was the connection, of course, the connection with these women in this group, but also the connection to so many other runners. And, just the amount of deep conversations that happened in airports, because it would take, that's where we had a lot of time. Because when we're in the airplane, we're really connected next to each other. We're kind of in our little pods. But in the airports, you just never know who you're going to get stuck next to for like 2 hours. And it was always a delight. And I had at least 3 or 4 conversations that were unprompted, challenging me to think differently about what I'm going to do with this and like what I'm doing after this experience. And it was a really interesting reflection back to me of like how people saw me versus how I've essentially have seen myself. And I say that as like I realized I would think I was having a very limited view of myself and who I am and what I'm capable of. And I think, I've worked a lot in the past few years, particularly to build this incredible foundation of just habits and discipline and being really integrated with myself and my own values. And now being in a place where I feel like I have the stability and the infrastructure to say yes to more things has been just really incredible. Like I am very inspired and am accepting the challenge of like, this life doesn't have to look like one singular path. We are so capable of doing this in a wildly creative and different way. And I saw people doing it. Like there were many people on the vet that were sponsored, but they're all in different capacities. David's a sponsored runner for Red Bull and and he's doing all like crazy multi-day stage races. Like that's his thing. And then other people have their side businesses. And it did get me really excited to think when I was on the New York Roadrunner podcast recently and Rob asked me like, are you going to go full in like as an athlete and go for sponsorships and make this your gig? And I was like, probably not. And for a lot of different reasons, but also because it's like, I don't have to choose that one path. That has been the path that's most forged, I think, for athletes. But like, there's a lot of things that I love and I'm passionate about, and I'm getting some opportunity to fuse them and make them look different. So I'll just say the inspiration to think about how I want to set up my life in a way that honors all these different areas of passion and accept help and encouragement from people when they're willing to give it.
I love that. Getting out into and surrounding yourself with new ways of looking at the world is one of my sort of mantras for 2025. And I hear that was a huge opportunity for you to get to see how life is done differently from an elite athlete perspective. I mean, you worked at Nike, you were thinking about athletes all the time, and now to have a lot of people on your new board of advisors around what can this look like for you as a consultant, as an amazing marketer, as an amazing runner, as an amazing running coach. I'm super excited to see how this experience and these people broaden your what's next.
We keep saying like this experience have changed us, but in reality, we are who we are. And I don't want to say this has changed me and I'm, like we're going to be someone that is so different or special. This is something that we always had within us. And I think this experience has really put light into the thing. Like it just almost like those tools are on us. And now the tools are like in front of us. And now we're like, you know what? I'm going to work with these tools and make something happen. And so doesn't mean that we have to change who we are, because I think we're pretty awesome the way who we are and what we've done, what we've accomplished. I just think we could do more with what we have already and just make it even bigger and whatever it is.
What I hear in that is that you're choosing to use the skills and the passions that you have had and dial it up. You're at choice as to how you want to use it in the world. And it sounds like you're each elevating that through this experience. And yeah, you are all still the most amazing, unique human beings you were in October of 2024. And now you're on the other side of it, and it's informing you about you. Often talk about you have a responsibility to live your best life. And so you are each responsible to do with this whatever you like and want to, and no shoulds. Remember, we're not going to should around here. In one or two sentences, I'd love to hear from the three of you, since we've heard from Becs. What's one or two pieces of advice, real short sound bites, if somebody is approaching a big goal? What would you advise them to do?
Yeah, I can start here. So I think what I would advise someone is, life is a journey, and we always, go through unpleasant and unpleasant moments, and we find comfort in the pleasant things and enjoyable things, but it's also the bad things, the bad experiences teaches us a lot about life and who we are. And so my advice is like, just don't be afraid to be uncomfortable, like get uncomfortable and make that uncomfortable comfortable. So it makes no sense, but it's just kind of like put yourself out there, and there are things that are just not going to feel great, but make it feel great. Change it, turn it around, and just don't look back. Just keep moving forward. That's my advice.
Make the uncomfortable comfortable. Get used to it, folks, because that's how you're going to grow. I love that so much. Jenny?
I started a race once, and just a mile or two in, we were crossing a bridge, and I heard a woman yell really loudly to this pack of elite women leading the charge. She yelled out to us, "I wish I was one of you this morning." And I've never forgotten that the fans of what we're doing see us as powerful and capable and exciting. And so if you're getting ready to launch a huge project and it's scary to you, remember to be a fan of what you're doing as well. Other people are looking at what you're doing, and they don't have the fear. They're cheering you on, and they're excited, and they just see what you're doing is incredible. And you should take part in that experience as well. Like, we have to do the work. We have the burden of the work, but once in a while, taking a step back and being a fan of what you're doing.
That's a good reminder. Thank you. I love that. Thanks, Jenny. All right, Hillary, what you got?
Don't be afraid to explore your fear. I think we often in our culture think of fear as a bad thing, as fear is something we want to avoid, to stay away from. But I think fear is just a really incredible motivator. It's a really incredible signal for us to use to make really rich and powerful decisions for ourselves, for our families, for the people around us. And off of that too, going back to a little bit, something like Beck started to get into is try it, commit to something, and don't be afraid to be an expert in experimentation. I think so quickly, and I see this as a coach and as a friend, like when people sign up for something, they get really excited for about 3 days. They start working on their training plan, and then they have 2 runs and they're like, oh my gosh, it felt terrible. Oh, my knee hurts. Or like one thing happens and like everything goes out the door. And we don't have to do that. We can set up a plan, get really thoughtful about it, and then tweak it. And that's, again, like the beauty of working with coaches and other individuals that are passionate about things that you are, is because you can have a board of advisors that comes in and like, okay, let's troubleshoot. Let's try something differently. I know I did that throughout this training block. I did that throughout the race. What's working today? How do we make this better? Try something else. And when you fail, if something hurts, if it doesn't go as you planned, it's not an emergency. It's just information. And so having that mentality as you're going through and working towards these big goals, you will land, even if you don't hit the goal you want, like you will land much closer to where you want to be. And I think that's the beauty of it, and learn so many valuable like life skills on the way.
If you don't mind me jumping in here, just because you have an audience, and this was a skill that became really a principle in my training that became really useful for me over time, and Hillary touched on it beautifully. I gave myself the discipline to never make up for yesterday. However yesterday went, you never spend today making up for yesterday. Today you start and you execute today. So if the workout was bad yesterday, if you got a bad night of sleep, that's in the past and you execute today. And that was such a powerful principle for me to follow. And I learned as I matured how valuable it was, because man, you can get so caught up trying to make up. So if you get derailed, like Hillary said, it doesn't have to derail the future. It just derailed yesterday. And it might only be a derailment for 5 minutes, not the whole day. And so just start executing the moment you get up the next morning and leave that in the past.
Yeah, I'm also rebranding besides selfishness, failure, right? I mean, failure just means we didn't get it right yesterday. Today we might, tomorrow we might, but we won't know unless we keep moving ourselves forward in that action plan of the manifestation. And so this brings us to our close. Ashley, you have been in the space. We are holding it for you. You guys, this woman who did not make it today, but is incredible from what I've seen and what I've heard from this group. So we're sorry we missed you, but we've been holding you in the space. Becs and Jenny, Chirine, Hillary, thank you so much for giving our community the gift of you all. And I hope that you stay part of our collective. We'd love to tap into you at other times, but what a gift you've given me as we end 24 and into 25, as we think about goals and how are we going to activate ourselves. I could not think of 5 more amazing women to launch us into what could be a really dynamic year of 2025, and we can lean onto this podcast. So thank you very, very much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks for connecting us back. This is the first time we've all been in a call together. I know.
I loved it when you guys all got on. You were like, oh my gosh, we haven't all 5 been together. So what a treat for me to witness. Beyond Should is creatively supported by a team of dynamic women. Thank you to our executive producer, Lauren Lagrasso, our producer, Daniela Silva, our marketing manager, Esty McInnes, our engineer, Ali Dietz at YA Studio, and our TMC curriculum design director, Katie Craig. Without these women, we would not be able to bring you this dynamic content. Thank you. Thank you for listening to another episode of Beyond Should, just one of the many ways we are working to support women from all walks of life. And we know personally, and from what our clients are sharing with us on the daily, that this is a dynamic and challenging time we are living through. And if you are feeling frustrated or out of control with your current work situation or life in general, and feel like something is just waiting for you, just beyond your reach or clarity, but you can't put your finger on what it is, then perhaps you might consider taking on a coaching engagement with us at the Murmuration Collective. We are professionally trained and certified leadership, career, and life coaches. We support women like you to wade through the confusion and find what they are truly seeking in the next chapters of their personal and professional lives. Our contact details are in the show notes. We look forward to meeting you, hearing your story, and seeing how we might be able to support you further. Be well.